Hi YouTube, and welcome back to my Random Thoughts on Thursdays. This week I decided to talk about how to become an entrepreneur. Okay, so for anyone who has had any regular following of my vlogs or Twitter or whatnot, you'd know that I am a self-employed consultant. I do web analytics, and I've been doing that for about 5.5 years now. And I personally find being an entrepreneur, just being self-employed, to be extremely rewarding. And I just thought I would talk about giving some hints and tips and things, because I know right now that there's still somewhat of an unemployment issue out there. People don't know how to find jobs, can't find jobs, that kind of thing. And I thought I could perhaps inspire some people to perhaps attempt to go and look at becoming an entrepreneur, becoming self-employed as an option. I think a lot of people seem to think that to start your own business requires, the typical example is, starting a flower shop or a restaurant or something like that, where you need capital investment. Somebody needs to invest in you and give you money and give you a loan, that kind of thing, so that you can go out and have a building where you can have yourself, you can have employees, and all this stuff to start a business. And yes, for brick and mortar type businesses, if you want to open a bookstore, a flower shop, or restaurant, any of your typical types of small businesses that require a brick and mortar location, those definitely require a capital investment of some kind, whether it's a loan or an angel investor or friends and family who invest in you. However, with the age of the internet that we're in, there are quite a few opportunities out there that I think are worthwhile pursuing for self-employment, freelance, that kind of thing. You don't necessarily have to start your own business and have an LLC when you do kind of a self-employment route. You can do 1099 contract work without having an LLC, that kind of thing. Although, to be perfectly honest, I highly recommend it, because you can kind of separate your business finances from your personal finances. And if you have a pass-through LLC, the money from that your business makes, you can pass that through directly to yourself, so that your business itself doesn't have a lot of assets. So if for some reason you end up having any kind of legal trouble, they can only seize your business assets and not your personal ones, assuming that you set up your contracts correctly. Definitely consult with a lawyer on that one. I know that some of that isn't cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than like going out and buying a building or renting a building or that kind of thing. But spending a few $100 to file for an LLC, to get some advice from a lawyer to make sure that all the wording in your contracts and things line up properly, and that kind of thing. It covers your butt. Just in case there's any legal issues whatsoever with you and your clients. And like I said, I was going to try and provide inspiration, so people are like, so what kind of thing could I do for self-employment? There's a lot of stuff that you can do that you can even do from home, not necessarily always from home, but I would say the majority of these can be done from home. If you have any skill in graphic design, if you can make anything with Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, or do video editing with Premiere Pro, or any of those kinds of tools, you definitely have a skill set that is sought after. There are websites like elance.com, freelancer.com, and other types of freelance type websites where you can create a profile. You can link to a portfolio, so if you've done any kind of work, even if it's just for yourself, you can put that together in a portfolio to show your skills. So even if you don't necessarily have a college degree in graphic design or videography or whatever, if you have a decent enough portfolio of examples of your work, you can put that online and try and get people to pay you to do that kind of thing for a living. And I think it's very rewarding. There are other types of things. So if you don't have skill in like graphic design or videography, there's programming. So if you can do HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, C++, Ruby, Perl, etc. If you have any skill in that, and let's say you don't know you have skill in that, you don't even know if you have an interest in that, but perhaps you're willing to try, there's a lot of free online tutorials out there. All you have to do is search for them and see, try the tutorials, see if you can learn it, see if you find it interesting. If you can, there's quite a demand out there for people who have that skill set, and you can get lots of freelance work that way as well. Obviously, the career field I'm in web analytics, where it's constantly expanding, it's growing. People and corporations are looking more and more for people with the skill set. Google Analytics is a great place to start in terms of, because it's free. So if you have a website at all, put Google Analytics on there, look at the data, read all of the back-end tutorials and things. There's a huge help section in terms of how to interpret the data and that kind of thing. You can get certified for Google Analytics as well. I think the certification is free, or it's fairly low cost to get the certification. So, go for that. Doesn't require you having any college background whatsoever. If you've got the certification, people will take you seriously. Or if you have a college background, I've got the college background, so I haven't really gone through a lot of certifications, although I am thinking about possibly getting some certifications now, primarily in Adobe, just because that's the tool that I personally prefer to use. I do have a background and have worked in Google Analytics as well, but I also have a number of subcontractors that I work with now, and I let them do a lot of the work for the other types of analytics tools while I focus on the Adobe stuff, because that's the one I really enjoy working with the most. But that's just my personal preference. Enough rambling. Let's see, other kinds of things. Let's say you're good at writing. You could get into technical writing, where you write instruction manuals for things. There's always people looking for that. You could go out there and do editing. So people who've written things and need a second pair of eyeballs to read it and edit it for grammar and punctuation and that kind of thing. Other people who are looking for researchers. So they're writing something and they need help researching the facts behind what they're writing. There are opportunities to work as things like a medical transcriptionist. I think you do have to have some training in that, but it again doesn't require a full college degree for it. Then there's also just data entry. So if you're good at typing at all, data entry would be a good one to look into. And a lot of those are now available as online things that you can do. They send you your assignment, you finish it within the time allotted, you send it back, and they pay you, I think, I don't know, by so many dollars for every 1,000 words or something of that nature. I don't know exactly how they pay out because I haven't actually pursued data entry work myself, but I do know some people who do that for a living, and you can actually make decent money. This isn't necessarily even something that you could consider doing. All these various work at home opportunities is not necessarily just if you're unemployed. Even if you have a job, this could be something you could do on the side for 5-10 hours a week to get a little extra money. There's lots of different people that I know that moonlight a little bit and get a little extra money on the side by doing different types of things. I mean, there's just so much out there that you can do related to the internet and things, whether you have skill in writing, whether you have skill in graphics, skill in programming. If you're really good with statistics and mathematics, people are definitely looking for help in those areas. So, if you have any kind of skill set that could be used online, internet related, definitely try and pursue that if you're really seriously looking to get some extra money or maybe even start your own entrepreneurial career. Things to watch out for if you are self-employed. One, taxes. That's the one thing. I mean, thankfully I was aware of this even before I filed for my LLC and everything. But when you are self-employed, you have to pay quarterly estimated taxes. in the US. This is US only. If you're not in the US, you can disregard this part because I am not familiar with tax code in other countries. So if you have questions about tax code in other countries, please go talk to an accountant or CPA or something in your country because that's one thing I would not be able to answer for you. But I'm fairly familiar with it in the US because I've been doing this for over 5 years now, where if you owe or if you earn enough to owe at least $1,000 in federal income tax for that year, you have to start paying quarterly income tax, and the how much you make changes every year because they keep changing the rates and that kind of thing, and the requirements for getting into each level of, because it's a graduated tax bracket and all this stuff. I wish they would simplify our tax code in the U.S. I really do. It gets so complicated, but that's the bottom line. And you know, if you can figure it out for yourself or talk to a CPA to help you figure out, like, oh, I owe quarterly taxes, and then you just basically, there's 4 times a year, and they do this weird thing. It's not exact quarters because I think it's January, April, June, September. Yeah, I think those are the months. Could be July, September. Because typically the quarter should be January, April, July, October, but I think the one or two of the quarters are kind of off by a month. Not quite sure why they did it that way. But keep in mind, so there's that one. There's that one thing to keep in mind. Number 2 is that if you're self-employed, you have something called the self-employment tax to pay as well. Basically, if you're employed and you're a W-2 employee of a company, so a typical standard normal employee, you still have to pay what's called FICA, F-I-C-A, and I don't know what exactly it stands for, but it's basically the Social Security and Medicare taxes that come out. So that's on top of your standard federal income tax. So you have the federal income tax, you have your state income tax, and you have your FICA, or FICA. Sorry, it's FICA. I keep always saying, I want to say FICA, but I think it's pronounced FICA. And apologies for the mispronunciation. Anyhow, so for FICA, if you're employed, you pay half, your employer pays half. I think it's like 17% is the full amount, and employees pay 50% of that, employers pay 50% of that. Self-employed people have to pay the full 17%, which kind of sucks because, you know, there's an extra, so whatever half of 17% is, 7 point something, anyway, 7.5%. So yeah, you pay 7.5, they pay 7.5, but you end up, as a self-employed, have to pay the full 17%, something like that. And I don't do math in my head really well, so if I'm wrong on those little numbers, I apologize. Anyhow, so yes, so those are 2 gotchas you have to keep in mind if you do want to pursue self-employment, is the quarterly taxes and the self-employment tax. And you need to make sure that you pay on time, and basically my rule of thumb is, because based on my husband and I's income and just everything else, and thinking about FICA and state income tax and federal income tax and everything else, I just ballpark it to 40% of all my income goes to taxes. And the best strategy is, if you do make self-employment income, immediately as soon as you get paid, take 40% of that and stuff it away somewhere where you won't touch it, because that's going to be your quarterly estimated tax payment money. Trust me, if you want to save a lot of stress and grief, always take 40% and put it away. I actually have a special account where I just kind of stuff it in there, and I pay all of my quarterly taxes out of that account. That way I always pay on time, I don't have to pay penalties, that kind of thing. So that's an important thing just for budgeting purposes. Once you've put away that 40%, the 60% that you've been paid, you get to do with whatever you want. You don't have to pay taxes on that because you've already put the 40% away for tax purposes. Yes, you still have to file annual tax returns along, in addition to the quarterly taxes. And if you do things right, you could get refunds. You could owe. It just depends on if you do everything correctly. Working with an accountant, especially a CPA, is highly recommended, especially the first year or two as you get used to dealing with this stuff. If you can figure it out on your own, it's great. But I often recommend people, at least for the first year, try to work with an accountant so you get a real feel for how to do the budgeting and everything else. So, anyway, those are some of the highlights, high points in terms of, if you want to become an entrepreneur, things that you need to watch for, even if you just work from home, that kind of thing. Because even if, basically whoever's paying you, generally they have to, whatever they're paying you is a tax deduction for them. So they're going to report whatever they pay you to the government. So that's one of the reasons why you have to do your quarterly taxes, because these guys are going to report to the government that they paid you, and so the government's going to know, so you have to pay the taxes. I've known some people who either weren't aware of it or didn't think that the government would know that they were making this money and try to get away with not paying the taxes on it. And they kind of got in trouble. I mean, they didn't get thrown in jail or anything like that, but they've been digging themselves out of a lot of mess and trouble. They've had assets seized by the government, garnished wages, just ended up having to go back and work a regular job. It's been a bit of a nightmare for the ones I've known who just, for whatever reason, decided not to pay their taxes. So, at any rate, I hope that you found all of this information useful. If you have any questions about U.S. tax code, leave me questions in the comments below, or anything related to being self-employed. I'll be more than happy to provide further insight and things like that. My fitness update for the week. So last week I got all 3 of my workouts in, just barely. I did Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I meant to do Thursday, but just didn't happen. And this week so far, today, I'm actually filming this on a Tuesday. It just happened to be that I had time to film today, so I'm doing that today. So I worked out today, and I'm hoping to get at least 4 workouts in this week instead of just 3, maybe 5. So today's Tuesday, so I want to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and possibly Saturday. So I'm hoping to get 5 in, bare minimum 4. So one way or the other, I want to get at least 4 in. I'm trying to, go from just the bare minimum 3 a week. My weight's kind of stagnated now, so I need to push myself harder and work out more. So that's my update. I hope you find my vlogs interesting and informative and useful, and if you do, please give them a thumbs up. Please like them. I appreciate that. Please share them with your friends, and also please subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate all my subscribers, and every now and again, all my top subscribers and things, I add them to my Google Plus circle. I have a special circle for them, and every now and again I will send out a comment specifically just for them and them alone. So if you want to become one of my top fans, make sure you subscribe and engage with me by liking, commenting, etc. And until next week, take care. Bye-bye.